Ladies and gentlemen, we are back again for part 2 of the disturbing details Hayley shared about Jay Slater on her TikTok live the other day. So for those that ain't aware, it was discussed in the last video that Ayub, Brad, Lucy, Jay and Brandon were all in the car together. These guys were driving to Masca, I believe. Brad got cold feet for whatever reason. I'm not too sure why he got cold feet. Cut a long story short, Brad decides to cut out. The rest of them go back to the Airbnb, I believe. Now, Hayley did say that another car pulled up to the Airbnb around 7:30 in the morning, stayed for about half an hour, and then she believes Jay left in that car. Then Lucy and Brandon approached Brad to say that Jay's gone missing. Now, what's being said is that they were searching for Jay for 3 days before they actually filed the missing persons report. Ultimately, a theory boils back to Tom Hilton, and she believes this all has to do with Tom Hilton and his crew. That's kind of like where we're up to. If you didn't watch part 1, make sure you go and watch it after this one. And there's maybe a few things that I'm actually forgetting from part 1. So make sure you go and watch part 1 and then get yourself back here to watch part 2, because we're about to get into this right about now.
Protect Brad when he should have just come out and told the truth in the first place. And just said, look, I wasn't there or whatever. Jay was my friend and I want the truth too.
Yeah, so basically at this point, just to give you guys some clarity, she's basically saying that Brad knew the truth but didn't come out and say the truth, especially if Jay's his friend. Why lie?
Evil, thank you. So, we know Tom Hilton has a lot of friends back home in Lancashire. And weirdly, they are friends with Ayub as well, okay? And when I put this video out, Rachel was one that got it removed very quickly, so this couldn't come out. So, this is Ayub in the nightclub here. Yeah, with one of his friends, who's actually also Tom Hilton's friend back home. And I'll just compare the photos so you can see it's actually the same person. Also, who has been really good friends with Tom Hilton for at least 7 years? Brad has, because this is Brad 7 years ago on Facebook.
We already confirmed that Brad and Tom Hilton were really good friends. Brad and Lucy were the only 2 people out of that whole crew that had been liking Tom Hilton's pictures all the way back to like 2017. The last pictures they would have been liking of Tom Hilton's would have been in like 2021. There's even a picture of Brad, and I believe Tom leaves a comment saying, yo, my bro, or yo, my G, or something along those lines.
And his comment, Tom Hilton, my bro. Almost like family, right?
There we go. I remember seeing that and I brought that to your attention ages ago.
There is a lot of connections here, deep connections. And I always think the truth is the truth, right? And people have nothing to hide nothing, okay? So people who come out and tell the truth, they don't worry about anything. And Brad easily could have just come out and said, this is actually what happened, instead of doing an interview 3 weeks after his best friend went missing. If you noticed, he was never on any of the searches for Jay, probably afraid of what he was going to find because he knew exactly what state Jay would be in. Even when his mum was out on searches, Brad didn't go. You were his best friend, he's like a brother, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Bit strange. At one stage, Rachel even blocked Warren Slater on all social media.
Wow.
Because Warren was asking questions about what happened to his son. And Warren thought it was, you know, so that's a bit weird, isn't it? If you're that close to the family and you know. The police do know all of this, yeah. It's very strange because I put this video up showing making the connections between Tom Hilton's friends and Brad and Ayub, and they were literally constantly reporting my video until it got taken down. To me, this all goes back to Lancashire, and I don't know if this was always going to happen. To me, it looks like 2 sets of people were in the same place at once. And then someone had to come out there and start making things work, which is why Ayub came out very quickly, why he quickly booked the Airbnb in the middle of nowhere, because it had to be where there was going to be no CCTV, no nothing. And the only connection who could have phoned Ayub for help would be Lucy or Brandon. Because as far as I know, Brad doesn't know them.
Yep, and then Lucy and Brandon are the 2 people that are well connected. Their relationship is more stronger than anyone else within that circle. And we've also got the receipts for that. So it would make sense that Ayub would have the relationship with Brandon and Lucy. And it was one of Brandon and Lucy that got Ayub involved.
So it seems like it was a lot of stuff. I'm not even reading the comments. Do you know what I mean? I knew it was going to get a lot of hate tonight's live. And I still decided to come and do it because I want to move on from this case. because the family aren't going to get any justice. And the reason they're not going to get any justice is because of one person, and that will be Rachel. And I'll tell you how it is.
She's been all over this from day one. She was even involved before Debbie knew Jay was missing. If what Hayley said in the last video is true, where Brad got cold feet, jumped out the car, and went back to his hotel, first thing he would have done was phone his mum.
She is the exact reason why they won't get any justice, because she's worked very hard from day one to cover up what any involvement Brad may have had.
Yep, and if she has to cover up any involvement that Brad has had, then inevitably she has to cover for everyone else that's involved.
She has actually shut everything down. She has employed people like Luggy and Chris Tenerife in order to attack people like me, even getting them to send messages threatening the lives of my children.
And just to also confirm that she is the only one out of that whole circle who has confirmed she knows Luggy and Chris. It's so weird how those two individuals went out of their way to help this family find Jay. Allegedly, they are the ones that found Jay, but there's no thank you, no acknowledgement of that online whatsoever. Not in the media, not on the GoFundMe, nowhere. It's funny that, because Debbie was thanking the Netherlands team on the GoFundMe. She was really grateful for their help, even though they weren't the ones that found Jay. And at the same time, you've got Mark Williams Thomas, who is a professional investigator. He's done things in the past that are questionable. This is someone who the family would likely believe in when it comes to finding out the truth about what happened to their son. But the people that are allegedly directly in contact with that family, helping them find their son, are having conflict online with that private investigator. Chris Tenerife was calling Mark Williams Thomas out from the very beginning, basically saying that everything that Mark Williams Thomas is saying is BS. But what never made sense to me is Chris Tenerife always claims that he never looked at the investigative side of this. So if you never looked at the investigative side of this, how the hell would you know if Mark Williams Thomas was sharing BS or not? But bringing it back to Rachel, Rachel was 100% been all over this from minute one. The moment Brad phoned her and told her what happened, I'm pretty sure she was on that plane before Debbie was.
So, and Lucky's even had videos up with it saying in bright yellow letters, if you're going to carry on doing this, watch your children and all this. And she went over to Tenerife very quickly, took over the main admin of the Jay Slater Facebook page. We were sending her credible information, and it was never handed to Jay's family. Pictures of people that look like Jay, that we were like, is this Jay, on the webcam? And if you asked anything about Brad, it never got put on the webpage, never. She only put on there what you were allowed to see.
And you have to also bear in mind, in that Jay Slater Facebook group that was controlled by Rachel, it had nearly every single person on the planet who was invested in Jay Slater in there. There was over 500,000 people in there. So it was the perfect place for Rachel to really control and dictate what was going on in there.
And that's exactly why it took so long to find Jay Slater, because she was there, fingers in all the pies, basically. I know she does that for a living as well, but I'm not talking about that. I mean, with the information.
Remember, I told you Rachel was the person that started the trolling. Not only did she spook her own followers with the fake GoFundMe that she claims, which was set up by her, there were multiple accounts within that same week that were set up through Facebook, set up through TikTok. These are fake accounts of Jay's friends, Brad's friends, people that was associated to Jay, basically. It was just a single person or a group of people behind the scenes that were making multiple fake accounts so they could spread misinformation, spread chaos. They needed it to be unorganized. They needed multiple distractions. They needed all of the conspiracies. They needed them. Also,
she would constantly stick by Debbie. Wouldn't let Debbie even breathe, taking any information what was going on. Never. Always doing weird stuff. Also, and this will come out, when Warren got over there, Warren was kept in a separate bit of the hotel where they all were, okay? He was kind of on his own, isolated, and he was the only one asking questions.
That's weird. Why was Warren isolated away from everyone else?
He would be woken up in the middle of the night by Rachel saying, we've got a lead, you've got to go look at this abandoned farmhouse. You've got to go look down there, until Warren was like, I can't do it anymore. You've got to go. Someone else do one of these runs. I can't do it. Like, I've done all of them.
So she was coming across so overbearing, trying to put so much on man's plate to the point where it's like, don't worry, you deal with it. I trust that you'll be able to manage it. But really and truly, it's all fake BS, because you need people moving the way you want them moving. You need people thinking the way you want them thinking. He was controlling the way the family was feeling, what they were thinking, and ultimately what they were believing. Why
isn't anyone else going? And it was to keep his mind very fucking busy, so he couldn't see what was going on. And I 100% believe that. And that was why now Warren is back here on Facebook, and no, sorry, on TikTok, putting out videos trying to show these searches, because he wants other people to see what was going on how he's misguided. Oh yeah, the last ping's here. Yeah, I'm just checking it now. Yeah, on my Snapchat. How are you doing that, Rachel? How are you constantly updating pings off a phone that's not fucking turned on anymore? How did you turn into a fucking Inspector Gadget in the middle of fucking searching? Oh, Teabags, Vic J's been here. Do you know what I mean?
I remember when she said, "Is this where they hold people?" That's her again trying to paint a narrative to try and make Warren and whoever else was there think a certain way.
Literally, constantly circling around the family at all times. And I will call you, and I will say to you, Rachel, as well, if you just muted and you can hear me, take me to court. Take me to court with this screen recording. Take me to court. Don't go to Lucky and Chris and get them to threaten my children and everything else again, because it's not worked before, it's not going to work now, I'm not scared. Take me to court if I'm lying. Take me for slander, take me for whatever you need to take me for. Let's go. Let's put it all out in the courtroom. All of it. What has happened right now is separate pages have been set up on TikTok to confuse the situation. These people have been put in place. Hang on, I've got that thing coming up my screen. I've got to quickly put the puzzle piece in. Oh, it's done. Several different pages have been put up to work as a distraction, and that's why I stopped doing Jay Slater's case for a bit, because it's very hard to cover a case with facts when there's so many distractions being put in the way and so much craziness being placed in the way all the time. And they've planted people like Joe to say Jay's alive, he's partying in Ibiza. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, I never believed in that. That's why you never see me talk about it. I thought that was a bag of BS. In fact, I actually thought that account belonged to Ayub. It's so weird how Ayub actually tagged that account just before he removed all of his footage. So all of a sudden, you're tagging the person that's got these wild theories. I don't even know why you would entertain it. And then you delete all of your content on your TikTok account.
He's on a boat. He's working on Ayub's fruit and veg store. There's so much madness going on. Oh no, it was a Spanish guy in his coffin.
Yeah,
and
they're doing it not only to cause distractions, but they want people like me to buy it. They actually thought they were going to put this fake Joe account out there, make it look like he's in Ibiza partying, and Wax is going to come along and start putting it out there like it's gospel. No, that's not what we do over here. We're looking for the facts and the facts only.
English, the English people missed that as well when the Home Office did an autopsy. You know, this is, Jay can rest in peace once he's got justice, and anyone else who doesn't want to listen, you don't have to be here, okay? There is a lot of stuff in this case that doesn't make any sense, because you've all been told things all this time about Potter Papers Cafe, Rolexes, all of this. You've been told he's alive. He's crashed through a door this week. He's now in Ireland. You've been told so much madness that it's going to get to the stage where people are like, just fuck off. I don't give a fuck about Jay Slater, because it's too much. So like, I'm watching some people, some good people on here who are covering the case, people like Truth Seeker, who is literally putting stuff out and she's making sense, and I'm watching her videos and I'm thinking she's on the right track. But other people like, and Mariana as well, who's got some really good videos, other people are going mad. And I watch them and I'm like, what? Where have you even got that from? Like, what are you on about? Like, when you turn something into like Lucy was running the mafia, or you turn it into Ayub has a fruit and vegetable store and he gives Jay a poison apple.
That's possible. I can imagine Ayub having a fruit and veg store and him giving Jay a poison apple. If you don't understand the analogy, I don't know where you're at, but I can see that being true.
He kept saying, Mirror, who's the fairest of them all? It turns it into an absolute freak show. And the reason that they're doing that is because Jay's you haven't got a Scooby? I have got a dog called Scooby, actually. The inquest is coming in January. And like Nicola Bully, if we get a accidental death, it's done. It's done. Lola's back on here as missing persons. She was under a lot of pressure and a lot of threats and stuff, just like the rest of us have been. And I honestly don't believe that Remembering Jay Slater account is family of Jay's at all. It's definitely not from Warren's side of the family, and I can't tie who they would even be on Debbie's side of the family.
As we already know, ladies and gentlemen, Warren has told me personally that that account is more or less a fake account. It doesn't belong to anyone that is a relative or a family member of the Slaters, okay?
And when you ask them, like, who are you? What part of the family are you from? Like, I just don't think it's a family member.
But what doesn't make any sense to me is that that account has been posting Jay Slater content on that TikTok account since the 18th of June. That's the same day when Lucy, Rachel, and everyone else involved started promoting that Jay was missing. So who's to say that that account doesn't belong to someone that's involved in the case? And maybe they are letting out raw information about Brad and Rachel, but it could be someone else that is close to the case, that is just pretending to be Jay's aunt because they don't want to reveal their true identity. Based on what that account is saying, all the truth should be revealed in the inquest, which will take place at the end of this year, beginning of the new year.
And now they're putting out things like, oh, he was beaten to death, he'll be coming out of the inquest, my family won't speak to me anymore. It's just kind of like, so I would just be very careful. So look, what I would say to you is this: if Jay died by accident falling off that cliff, you still have to ask yourself the main questions. Why was he taken by two middle-aged men up into the Masker Mountains? Why was he just not go back with his friends? Why did they even come over to Masker in the first place? Like, why didn't I just stay in town where he normally stayed when he worked there at the Pot of Paper Cafe? Why the level of lies? Why did people put out different times of calls? Why did Brad, halfway through the investigation, 3 weeks in, come out and go, oh, did I not tell anyone? I actually saw him slip down the mountains. Oh, I thought I told you, yeah, and he was smiling as he did it. Lucy saying he's lying in a fucking ditch because he's stabbed himself on a cactus. So he's got a little tiny thing in his leg and he's like, oh, I'm just going to lie in this ditch, I'm so injured. It just, there was so many, like, why is everyone lying if there's nothing to lie about?
Exactly. And
all of this is like busied it all up and taken away from the truth. But if you go down to just the beginning and the most simplest answer, it would make more sense. It would honestly make more sense.
In my opinion, if Jay was in the mountains and he would have fell into the inaccessible areas of that mountain, then he would have been taken there. I mean, literally someone took him there. He didn't walk there by himself. He was there with a group of people, one person, two people, three people. They took him there right to that point of destination. Thereby, he only had to walk a few more meters and boom, he would have been finished. It could have been fun and games. Remember what Hayley said. She believes this is got something to do with people back in Lancashire. Maybe, just maybe, that was the case. Now, they didn't want to go to the extreme of killing Jay, but what they wanted to do was put Jay in a compromising position, film him, and literally just share that amongst people within Lancashire, just to prove that Jay got violated after what he done to Tom Hilton. However, it went overboard, and unfortunately, Jay died. Maybe it was Brandon that was playing tricks on Jay, trying to put Jay in a compromising position so he could video him and take the piss out of him and send it to Tom Hilton or send it to Tom Hilton's friends, just to get some type of recognition, just to get a pat on the back. I'm just curious to know why Brandon, the person who was last seen with Jay in the footage, where Jay looked waved out of his face, as well as that seen in most of the images with Jay whilst in Tenerife, has decided not to come forward and make a statement about what happened to Jay that evening. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe he feels some type of way about what happened that evening and doesn't have the confidence and the courage to come out and say the truth. Because not only does he incriminate himself, but he could be incriminating multiple others as well.
That's what people need to look at. They need to look at the key people involved and what the key people had to do. And did Jay go back there? Did he have some kind of drug-led episode and something kicked off in that place? And then he fled out into the mountains. There's a reason he came off of the main path. Even his own dad says, there's no way my son walked here. There is no way that Jay walked this way when he could have just stayed on the fucking main path with all the cafes. We know that just down the path where Rachel and Warren walked, and you go and watch it on Warren's page, there was a massive fucking building with loads of water. So why didn't he have a drink of water? There was fucking thousands of bottles of water there. There was tea there was a television, a fridge. And Rachel says that's where his phone pinged, right near there. So why didn't he help himself with a caftan and a bottle?
That's exactly where Rachel said, oh, is this where they keep them? Is this where they hold them?
Of water. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So the only way I will believe that Jay fell off that mountain is if he was running. He was running in fear of his life. And what did Mark Williams Thomas, I don't know if he put this up. No, he didn't. He told, okay, so Mark Williams Thomas told Millie, the searcher, in a voice note, which she forwarded to me, that Jay had armed himself with 2 orange-handled knives in the Airbnb to defend.
We were told he obtained 2 knives because he feared for his life.
Himself. Thank you to Cloud Chaser. And then Mark had spoke to the cleaner, who went in after Ayub and Rocky, and the knives were still there. So the only thing Mark Williams Thomas said, he must have been disarmed, because at one point he had 2. And when they went into orange, exactly, very specific, that's exactly what was there, was orange-bladed knives, orange-handled knives with the blade of different sizes. And that came from Mark Williams Thomas, who now says, and if you remember when he put it out in the public, he said, we have every reason to believe Jay was scared. And that's what he meant, that Jay alarmed himself. And now he's changing it to, well, I've said since the beginning, haven't I? I've always said accident. I know, Mark, you didn't. You didn't. You said, give me 3 days, I'll solve this whole thing. Then you said there was a Rolex. You said Jay was scared. You said that Jay went off into the mountains. You said all of these different things happened, Mark. And then when, like normal, you actually sucky guy that can't even be a police officer because you failed at that, and you bite me for saying it, take me to court. You then change your whole
She's on going to court, isn't she?
story and go, oh, actually, I actually always said it was an accident. Oh, God. But unfortunately, Mark, you put it out all over the internet because you got millions of views on your video. We all saw it. So you can't then go back, and everyone else like me had to say, like, okay, we got this part wrong, because when someone's missing, we don't have Jay, so we can only say it could be this or that, you know, it could be one or the other. People keep saying I attacked the family. The only thing I said was about the GoFundMe. Like, why do you keep upping it and upping it and upping it? And I'll still say it to this very day. I would still say, why have you got an open GoFundMe that says, find Jay Slater when he's been found? Why? Do you know how many parents come in here that say to me, could you help me with my GoFundMe because I'm trying to bring my son back from Australia and all of this, and you've got one at 70-something thousand pounds and you've had donations made this week. Why? Why? So I still have that question, and I'm allowed to ask that question. I donated to it, so I'm allowed to ask questions.
Look, she does have a point about the GoFundMe, and as I said to you guys in one of the previous videos, the GoFundMe never made sense to me. 30k GoFundMe to find a missing person, what was it needed for? And there could be reasons as to why that GoFundMe was set up, but we just don't know the reasons as of yet. But I think it's something we do need to dive into at a later date. And again, this live stream was so long, there's still more to go. There's still more to go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not too sure how much more we have to go. In the meantime, I need you guys to comment down below. Let me know exactly what you are thinking based on what we've just heard. If you haven't seen part 1, make sure you go and watch part 1 and get yourself back here and comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Still a long way to go. The inquest in January as well. AYAB's podcast is around the corner. Guys, I look forward to seeing you lot on the next one.